Hello, everyone, and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and today I'll be discussing The African Queen from 1951, starring Katharine Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart, and directed by John Huston. And so now, let me share some behind-the-scenes details about this film. Sources claim that everyone in the cast and crew got sick, except for Humphrey Bogart and director John Huston. And they said they avoided their illness by essentially living on imported Scotch whiskey. Bogart also later said, "All I ate was baked beans, canned asparagus, and Scotch whiskey. Whenever a fly bit Houston or me, it dropped dead." I think that's a pretty funny behind-the-scenes thing there. Another detail, Lauren Bacall famously ventured along for the filming in Africa to be with her husband, Humphrey Bogart. She played den mother during the trip, making camp and cooking. This also marked the beginning of her lifelong friendship with Katharine Hepburn. All right, but now let me get to my thoughts on the plot. So the plot, I give it a 4 out of 5. I really liked it. I love the setting. I can't believe they're actually in Africa. I thought that was really cool. But what really sold it for me was the romance between Katharine Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart. It felt natural. It felt realistic, especially as it developed and went along. I thought it was really, really well put together and well done. The story itself isn't super engaging. It does slow down a bit once it's just them on the boat, but it really picks up again when they decide they want to blow up the German boat, and especially by the end. I love the ending of the film. It's very beautifully put together. It's kind of a mix of a romance and, I guess, a proto action movie. They didn't really have those the way we do today. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like your first ever rom-com spy thriller or action movie, that kind of thing. I really liked it, and that's why I gave the plot a 4 out of 5. So let's move on to the acting. The acting, I also gave a 4 out of 5. Again, I was mentioning they had great chemistry together. And I also love, though, when they first know each other, they're very, very different, right? He's kind of a crusty old man on a boat, and she's very proper and from a higher class society and whatnot. But once they, the circumstance of her brother being killed and the Germans invading the villages they were in, once they go on the boat and their relationship starts to blossom and whatnot, it's really, really good chemistry. The only issue I really had was the other actors. I wish the German actors were a little bit more realistic. They were a little cartoony for me. And her brother at the beginning, I wasn't the biggest fan of that guy either. He seemed a little too over the top and didn't fit in with the rest of the acting. But other than that, I had a good time with it. And again, Hepburn and Bogart had great chemistry. So 4 out of 5. Let's move on to the directing by Mr. John Huston here. I thought he did a good job. Let's see, the other films of his I've seen. Now, I think Maltese Falcon. I have not seen Treasure of Sierra Madre. I definitely want to see that one. I really liked High Sierra. Okay, so when compared to those, I think this fits right in with it, especially with Humphrey Bogart being the consistent actor he worked with. So I thought that was good. I think overall, what he put his actors and all of them through, with everybody getting sick and whatnot, that's pretty crazy. He was definitely dedicated to the craft. They're really in the African jungle. They really have a boat, all that. And there were some scenes for sure, though, they were on a studio lot and whatnot. But for the most part, they're out there. And I thought he did a great job, and I was very impressed with what he put together. I still like High Sierra more, though, from him. I thought that was a better acted film because there wasn't consistency with some of the background actors. The focus for sure is on Hepburn and Bogart, but I would have liked a little bit better acting, as well as I think the pacing of the film is a little too long too. Once it's just them on the boat and whatnot, I think that could have been trimmed down just a little bit and kind of made it more flow a little bit better. But other than that, he did great here. So 4 out of 5. All right, let's move on to cinematography and special effects. I give it a 4 out of 5 as well. I thought it was beautifully put together and shot, especially the scenes on location and in the boat and whatnot. I will say though, with the German bass and whatnot at the end, that seemed a little, or it was a boat. Um, that looked a little too cheesy for me. I would have preferred kind of more realistic, like they did here, but I don't know what the budget constraints and whatnot were. The best scenes for sure are the ones you could tell they're in Africa because it looks real. The beginning sequence, we're going through the jungle and the titles are showing up and whatnot. I love that. That was really cool. And of course, the explosion at the end as well is pretty good too. So, yep, 4 out of 5. All right, let's talk about the music. So, give it a 3. There really isn't any music. I actually think that would have helped a lot. At least nothing memorable. I honestly can't think of what the theme and whatnot was. I wish there was something I could grasp onto. I always bring up my favorite, which is like Casablanca and whatnot. That music really sets the tone of the film. This movie was very, very generic, very forgettable, and which is a shame. But, yep, 3 out of 5. All right, so let's go to the overall score. So the overall score is a 3.8 out of 5, and that's a 76% on critic lists. And so now let me go through the breakdown of my critic list score. Is there any graphic language? No, none at all. Any violence? There's some soldiers who die at the beginning of the film, and her brother dies as well, but it's very tame. Like there's no gore or blood or really anything like that. In fact, the brother, he dies, but it's not revealed until later, kind of off camera. Like we don't see them bury him. We just see the results of them burying him. All right, and now in regards to nudity or sexual content, just some mild kissing, nothing more. And then there's also a scene where Hepburn and Bogart, they're in the water. They haven't bathed in a few days, and they're still in their underwear. Like nothing shown or anything like that. Nothing explicit. Very, very tame. Regards to political bias, none that I could tell. Regards to family friendliness, it's very family friendly. This is a very tame film. I think kids would. I think they'd be engaged with it, but it's definitely harmless. Like it's not a overtly violent film or anything like that. I think it's safe for kids. All right, entertainment value wise, I thought it was very entertaining. I think the chemistry between them is what sold it for me and what I really liked about it. And I also love that when they're kind of arguing and bickering, again, it felt more like a realistic relationship. It didn't feel contrived, it didn't feel tacked on. They did very well here. And so I like that, especially because by the end, they're really tight-knit. They need each other. I love that. All right, so with all that being said, would I recommend this movie? Yes, I would. I love their chemistry. It's a fun romance, but also kind of a fun war drama as well. So if you like the mix of the two, you'll really enjoy it. Yeah, it's definitely not the best film for Hepburn or for Bogart. I think they definitely have better roles, but I think this is a fun film, and you could tell they had a good time, even though the conditions were pretty miserable. But yeah, so those are my thoughts overall on The African Queen from 1951, and that concludes today's movie review.